right, let's get started with the first conversation. You know, in conversations that I've had over the years with a lot of people, I've found that generally the approach to investing or the approach to management of money is different when it comes to both the sexes. And I say this with a little bit of caution. I'm not trying to paint everyone with the same brush. I'm saying that more women that I have met tend to take a bit of a back foot as far as the managing of money is concerned, particularly when it comes to a family. They think that their husbands are better placed to manage their money. But this may not be the best approach to take. And even if you're talking about unmarried women, women who are currently managing their own finances, there could be a slightly different or nuanced approach that they should take when it comes to managing their money. We'll be talking about all of this in a lot of detail on today's show. Joining me to talk about it is Kiran Telang, certified financial planner as well as author. Kiran, thank you so much as always for taking the time. You've just released a book that is called Money Wise, that talks about the approach that women should ideally take to financial planning. In your experience, and this is the first question, should there be a slightly different approach, and why is that, if you do think that there should be a different approach?
Good evening, Alex. A pleasure to be here. So this is a topic which is very close to my heart. You know, being a practicing financial planner, I do come across, issues which women face in terms of managing money. So while money itself is gender agnostic, it doesn't differ, how money is used by either a male or a female. But the circumstances in which each person finds themselves can be very different. So what happens with women generally is that there has been this, societal build-up. It's kind of a stereotype which has been built that women are not good at managing money, or even a stereotype that managing money needs a lot of, high knowledge of math or finance, which unfortunately has also kind of led women to believe that they cannot do it, while that is not a fact. We see our grandmothers, our moms, they have been managing money beautifully. And some of the earlier generations, they wouldn't probably even be, very highly qualified, but within the budget and within the constraints of the family finances, they used to manage beautifully and manage to raise comparatively larger families in the earlier era. So the approach to management in terms of management of money, in terms of budgeting and taking care of the needs of the family, I think women have this ingrained within themselves. So that is one huge positive point which is there in favor of women in money management. What lacks probably is knowledge about products and the fear of taking charge themselves. So I think that is the main reason why we see much lesser women managing their own money as compared to men.
You know, that is actually a very, very interesting point that you raise. And in fact, in conversations that we've had in the past, Kiran, we've spoken about risk and the various aspects of risk perception, risk-taking capability. Would you say broadly that women are more risk averse in your experience in conversations that you've had? And does that affect their approach to financial planning?
Again, I would say it's a very individualistic trait. The risk tolerance might be similar, but the capacity to take risk or the willingness to take risk in women might be lesser, because the knowledge about financial products or the jargon might be a bit confusing, and it might kind of hold them back in terms of investing in volatile assets or riskier assets, or taking more chances with their money. So it again, risk is an inherent aspect of each individual. We have seen some women who are much higher up in their risk tolerance levels when compared to their husband. So that is also possible. But as I said, because of these stereotypes or these beliefs that women have grown up with, or the society has brought in over the years, it becomes a little difficult for women to go beyond the traditional investment products like say gold or buying real estate. Though real estate itself is a riskier asset, but it's been a traditionally very well loved asset class for most Indians.
You know, I personally am very happy when my wife does well, and I encourage her to do incredibly well in the job that she has, because I hope to retire early. So that's my perspective. Having said that, I'm really happy to see that a lot of women are doing much better, or you see a lot more women in the forefront than you have in the last 2 decades or so, and that is changing the way I think that a lot of women also approach managing their money. Do you think that this is a positive thing, and what can broadly women take from this? How do they approach? And I come back to my first question, Kiran. Should they have a different approach, and what aspects of that different approach would you like to focus on?
Well, so indeed, what you said is true. So today, when women coming into the workforce, they're managing their own money. The numbers are definitely increasing, and it's very encouraging to see that trend. See, what happens is when generally there is this first salary which comes in, or from your profession, if you're a doctor or an architect, when you're making your early professional income, there is a lot of confusion as to where do you start investing from. So, the answer to what do I do? So, you traditionally go back to what your parents did or what your peer group is doing. So, you just check with them and then you go ahead and do it. Also, there are aspects like, tax saving and things which come in. So, you generally end up making mistakes in the early couple of years of your investing. It is important to realize that it's all right to make mistakes, but when you realize that there has been a mistake in the investing pattern that you have chosen, you need to step out, whatever, even if it's a loss, just step out and take the correct direction. So to start in the correct direction, to figure out what approach you should be taking to managing your money, you need to first know your goals. So that is where it all begins. So in the earlier phase of the career, it's usually setting up your own say house, or planning for further education. Those could be goals which could be coming in the first decade after you start earning. So if you look at these kind of goal based investments, you will have a better direction to understand how to invest and which asset classes are suitable for you, how much risk can you take. Let me give you a small example. So if you're planning for, say, higher studies in a couple of years, you wouldn't want to look at equity class as an investment. So you should be ideally looking at something which is less volatile, even if it is giving you a lower return, because your idea is to accumulate funds to support your further education goal, which is so that could be a beginning for you. And then going forward, then you can start describing your traditional life goals or whatever other goals you have, and start picking up asset classes and instruments within those asset classes and start your investment journey on a very sure footing.
So, but from what I'm getting, Kiran, this is more or less similar, and it is essentially sex agnostic. It sounds like the same approach that men should take and women should take. But what I'm trying to get at is, in terms of family planning, in terms of being aware that there could be a gap in a woman's career when they decide to have a child or have children for that matter. How do they plan for that? Do they have to take a slightly different approach to planning?
See, definitely, yes. I mean, these are goals which would, be there for women, which might not be there for women. So, women taking sabbaticals, say, either for a childbirth or elder care in the family, that is pretty normal. So, for things like that, sabbatical income itself could be a goal in a woman's financial plan. So that would probably not be there for a man. I mean, so if a woman is planning to start a family in a few years, she can, accumulate funds and she can invest and use that money as income when she's on that break. So that could be used either to, just for living expenses during that career break, or she could, look at enhancing her skills when she's on a relatively longer break, say a year or two, and utilize that money. Now, there are certain other aspects also which young women especially face. So, in our traditional Indian society, the girl gets married and moves to the husband's house. So that could also mean relocation to another city or relocation to another country. So how are you going to handle, those kind of issues? So if you're looking at traditional investments like say real estate, if you bought a house in the city that you currently live in, how are you going to manage that once you move out? So those kind of questions are there more for women than for men. But of course, there are cases where men also move to other cities when they bought a house, so that exists. But it is kind of almost sure for a lady that she will move away from where she's currently living. So those kind of things, and in other unfortunate circumstances, say if a woman is widowed at a very young age, I mean, she'll have responsibilities. Or in cases of divorce, where there could be responsibility of children. So how are those aspects to be managed? I mean, there is a money aspect to it. I mean, apart from the emotional trauma that one goes through, there is always a money aspect to it. So how are you going to manage in such situations? So the reason that women need to understand money and take charge of what they're doing on a broad level at least is that whenever there is a requirement which is their own and there's nobody to support them, they should be able to handle matters themselves without totally depending on somebody else to look at these kind of things.
You know, I want to also come to the product side of things, Kiran. Is it really that women-oriented financial products are different, or should they not really worry about the product as much as the asset classes we keep talking about? The approach should be asset allocation and the
maybe a savings account. So that usually, again, the women-oriented savings account or banking products that are given are typically based on the stereotypes that women are great spenders or they love to invest in gold. So those kind of benefits are given to either the credit card holders, I mean, higher spending limits and cash back or those kind of offers are there. So it does not really make a difference in that kind of products. But if you look at the other baskets, say, for example, loans. So banks offer a lower rate of interest to women borrowers. So that is definitely a gender-based benefit, which is actually there, and it makes a difference in the overall expenses on the loan. Likewise, there could be products in the insurance basket which are specifically oriented and built towards, ill health that a woman could face, or there could be maternity benefits which are built into the health insurance plan. So these are very specific women-oriented products which actually make a difference. So you need to see that whether really there is any benefit flowing out of it, or it is just a kind of a marketing strategy that is being used to sell that particular product. So definitely, I see home loans and some of the health insurance policies, especially the critical illness policies related to women, which are genuinely different products and which could be very helpful to women. But other things in terms of higher spending limits and those kind of things, those really don't matter on an overall basis. So you need to see what is really beneficial to you and accordingly go for it. Investment products, there is no differentiation, because whether a man buys an equity fund or a woman buys an equity fund, there's going to be no difference. So investment products, there isn't really any differentiation.
Absolutely. Which comes to the last point, Kiran, in terms of how couples should approach this. Often, like I said at the start, women tend to take a bit of a back seat here, and that I don't think is the right approach to have, because often they also contribute a sizable chunk of their own salaries for the welfare of the family, for the welfare of their home. How would you think that both parties should approach this? How can men, for example, take a more inclusive approach? How do women take a more active role in the management of money when it comes to families?
Right. So there are two aspects to it. One, if you look for a newly wed couple, money discussion is a very sensitive topic, and not everybody is comfortable discussing it. So that itself is a barrier to coming together and planning the money journey through the life. But once that barrier is crossed, I mean, you will have to take the first step and discuss things. The need to realize that most of the goals that we plan for using our money are usually family goals. There could be some personal goals as well, But broadly, if you look at children's education or retirement or buying a home, these are family goals. So typically, what we suggest is that you look at your own income earning capacity and save in the same proportion as you are earning. So if both of the husband and wife are earning equal amount of salaries, they should contribute equally towards house expenses, and the rest they should be investing in their own names, either singly or jointly, to build up their own assets. A lot of people make this mistake where they pool in all the money into one account which is in joint names and then build assets from there, or otherwise one among the couple is saving and the other is investing. So both these strategies can actually lead to a very lopsided asset creation. So one person will have all the assets and the other will be holding all the expenses and the loans, which is not a very fair situation to be in. And God forbid, if anything goes wrong in the marriage over the years, it will be unfair to both the parties, if there is a lopsided asset creation which has happened. So the better way to do it is that to create a joint account maybe for expenses and invest through your own accounts for investments and build up assets which are towards family goals.
Understood. I think this has been a very insightful conversation, and I think that a lot of people tuning in will have benefited from it. Certainly something for me to think about in terms of the management of money that I have. Thank you so much, Kiran, for taking the time for speaking to ET Now.
Thank you.
All right. Do stay tuned. We've got a lot more lined up for you on the show, starting with a conversation on cryptocurrencies. We'll be back after this short break.